DonInLondon, hello. It's October the 30th. My video is all about recovery from addiction to substance or behaviour. My addictive substance, alcohol, my behaviour could be equally addictive towards people, places, things. Wanting, needing, desperately trying to be with the right people, in the right place, doing the right things, having the right things, wanting the right things. Always trying to fit in. These days, just simply living one day at a time, with what I have. Me, my needs met, wants forgotten. And that sounds a bit smug actually when I say it like that, because living in recovery from addiction means I had to start again, start from scratch, learning how to be me, learning how to relate to other people, learning not to drink alcohol and not to try fix anything with a substance or particular behaviour which became repetitive and obsessive. So my obsessive compulsive disorder revolved around alcohol in the end, from happy-go-lucky drinker, where my feelings seemed okay, to dependent drinker, through to addicted to alcohol and no way to stop on my own. So it's taken a long while to actually understand what it's like to live in a problem, and then work out what the solution may be. And the solution today is not alcohol, and I'm very grateful for that. And I never knew really what my problem was until I got sober, and that was I didn't feel adequate, good enough, and I was always striving to be perfection, always striving to be the person I thought you wanted me to be, and also striving to create events which would make you happy, and if you were happy, maybe I would be happy too. But there's nothing more lonely than somebody who drinks on their own, or drinks in company and feels alone, finds a relationship whilst drinking and still feels alone, and realises no amount of money, no amount of being in the right place with the right toys will make us feel happy unless we are somehow content being the person we are today. So I had to learn life all over again, but it didn't mean I gave up my history or all the skills and learning that went on during those years. It means I have a better perspective on my life simply because I just don't drink. And life has changed. So what used to be ordinary and unfulfilling, the ordinary has been a path into the extraordinary. Just extraordinary living, one day at a time, knowing how I feel, what's going on for me, where I may go, who I might be with, what works. And I won't know what works until I get there, and if it doesn't work, I can change. So it's been a difficult road. I think I was always taught to be quiet. Children are seen and not heard, or if they're seen they're happy and content and say thank you, and maybe don't understand what is really going on. So a lot of my learning in early years was not really helpful, because no one around me seemed to have all the answers, and I didn't realise that nobody felt different or peculiar because of it. I always thought I needed to know the answer so I could be a part of and understand my role. These days I don't mind what my role is. I'll work it out when I get there, and it can be just to be there to listen, to speak, to be a part of in whatever capacity seems appropriate, and something I might like to do. So I don't have to do things which I don't like anymore. And it's strange, because I always thought that if you took the alcohol away from me, life would be horrible. Life would just be dull and boring. But what I realise now is I was pretty dull and boring, because I only had one record to play when I was drunk, How to Make You Happy. And that could be very boring if you never got to know who the real person was behind the mask. And in those days I didn't really know who I was. I just said yes. When somebody said at work, can you do this, I'd say yes. And my career went all over the place. Different companies, different organisations, different jobs, careers. So I careered all over, because I didn't know how else to live. And if it wasn't working, I was in relationships very nice, very lovely, and very, very trying for people who were trying to be with me, because I couldn't cope with myself, let alone anyone else. So drink was my rescue. It was my best friend. So when I had to give it up, or die, because that's where it got to, it was very difficult, and I needed help. And my problem was, I knew all the answers. I knew that I needed to give up alcohol, but I didn't know how to. I thought I had to do it on my own. I thought it was a question of willpower and self-will. But it's not, because in the addiction, there is no rhyme or reason to why we keep on drinking, other than we have a physical need for it, or need and want, physically, to just maintain calmness of some sort, or fear of some sort. It's just the way it is. But we can't stop on our own, or at least I couldn't. Not successfully, one day at a time, as I say these days. So I needed help, and I asked a professional, how do I get dry? Please help me. And the answer was, come see me and I'll help you get dry, but I can't keep you sober. I'm just turning off my email so it won't go making noises at me. So I needed help, and the professional advice from so many different sources was, once we get you dry, maybe go to AA, Alcoholics Anonymous. And the words made me shudder. What? Tell people the truth, that I'm an alcoholic and I'm trying to stay dry, even in a fellowship of people who are all in the same boat, trying to be sober one day, today. So it took a long while, and I was not a good student, and I'm glad I wasn't a good student, because if I had just followed blindly and not understood what was going on, I would have always questioned, why is it that a fellowship can keep me sober and I can't? And the simple answer is, many people with experience, strength and hope of how to be sober, I'm going to hear the message over and over again of how we do it, and then share about it. So it's a two-way street, and nobody's better at it than anyone else. If we've got sober and stayed sober for a day, that's the starting point and the finishing point. Some of us do go on to have continuous sobriety, but if we're still learning, it can be very, very difficult. And there is a famous phrase, rarely have we seen a person fail who thoroughly follows the path of the 12 steps of AA. Now that's a true statement, but how many actually follow the path thoroughly when learning? After all, we need to keep on learning by making mistakes. So we're not perfect, far from it, and my thoroughness of learning the path was tempestuous. It took time. So I share about AA here. I don't speak for AA, never can, never will, because we are all equal in fellowship, and there are no rules, laws or regulations which force a person to follow a particular path. You work out what your path is and you get on with it as best you can, with help and support from others in the same boat of sobriety. So here I share about the 12-step program of AA, how it helps me and what the steps are. And October is all about step 10, making continuous spot check inventories of what's going on, what's working, what's not working, and where I can improve. Just that. That sounds a long way into the program, step 10, but it's something we do every day. It's just a formal way of doing it. If something's going well, why is it going well? If it's not going so well, hang on a minute, what's my part in it? And what can I do about it? So it's a gentle progress always, knowing that every day is full of calamity, if there's calamity about, and every day could be full of happiness, if happiness is about. And in between there is a sort of mixture of good and bad. A bit like the curate's egg. And if you don't know who the curate was, I can't remember, but the curate, when asked by their guest, they were a guest at someone's house, the host said, "How's your egg, Mr. Curate?" And he said, "It's good in parts." In other words, it was bad. But it's like life, it's good in parts, but it could be overall bad or overall good. That's just the way it is. So I'm learning daily what life can be. and the clocks have gone back here in the UK, and I imagined I would get an extra hour of sleep, but it doesn't work that way for me. I was up early. So how does AA help me? I share here the AA preamble on this little card, followed by a reading or so from this book, Daily Reflections, and then I share some of my own ideas and thoughts which have come about over the years, but not completely because there's too many now. So the AA preamble, where it all started for me. And the reason why I emphasise it is if I forget this bit, then the rest of the fellowship stuff won't work for me. So this is how the AA preamble reads, with a couple of additions by me. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. So it's about self-help and helping others. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. That's it, a desire to stop drinking. And there are no rules, laws or regulations in fellowship. There's nothing to violate or step over. We work to our own code of conduct. We work out how we want to be as people. And we generally get on with each other, but we have very different opinions about life. But we do stay around long enough, hopefully, to realise that sober is our goal. If you like, our mission is to be sober one day at a time. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. So there's no due or fee. No, there isn't. It's free. At the same time, those who have money help pay for meeting space, the rent, the tea, the coffee, the biscuits, whatever it is, and some literature, and some basic admin costs, so the fellowship can be all-embracing and we can keep in touch with each other and make literature which may be helpful to get sober. Many people don't read literature, many people don't read, and many people can't read or write. So it can be learned how to be sober by just being there. That's actually how it works. Being there and being a part of and included and learning a lot. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organisation or institution. Does not wish to engage in any controversy. Neither endorses nor opposes any causes. But the good news is everybody in AA has alliances, could be part of a sect, has a particular religious belief maybe, has affiliations to political organisations or institutions, and does engage in controversy. So everybody has their outlook and opinion and attitudes about life. But the fellowship is only there for sobriety. So once you're sober, keep all your paraphernalia of life if it suits you and is good for you, and let go of the rest which is not good for you. And our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. So that's why I do these videos. And it was good to get some feedback today about the general usefulness of them. But I'm not sure if I am going to keep going in quite the way I have, because the usefulness of any vessel is in its emptiness, and that's what happened to me in fellowship. I sort of emptied out all the rubbish fairly early on, and then was empty. And then what do? Fill myself with more rubbish, or fill myself with wisdom, experience, strength and hope? So I've been doing that for quite a while, and I've got other interests coming along, so my videos will change, or may become more, I suppose, irregular rather than regular. But there are several years of them out there, so there's enough for now, for a starting point and maybe a sticking point. I don't know. I'll work it out. This book, Daily Reflections, has helped me immensely, because if I don't keep a daily focus on sobriety, I go the other way, back into the madness, old attitudes and behaviour, wondering if I'm right, wondering if I'm wrong, rather than say life is life, and today will be full of good bits and bad bits, a bit like the curate's egg. And it's like that with daily reflection. Sometimes on a daily basis we get some nourishment emotionally, or some agreement about how life is. So today's AA daily reflection is all about live and let live, and it's 30th of October, just remind myself. Live and let live, and never since it began has Alcoholics Anonymous been divided by a major controversial issue. And having gone through at least one world war, and plus many regional wars, and people have been in fellowship all that time, issues outside fellowship and sobriety have not become controversial. Nor has our fellowship ever publicly taken sides on any question in an embattled world. This, however, has not been a no-earned virtue. It could almost be said that we were born with it. So long as we don't argue about these matters privately, it's a cinch we will never shall publicly. And that comes from the 12 Steps and 12 Traditions, which is the purple book behind me. That one there. Not necessary to read, because you'll hear about all the 12 Steps and 12 Traditions in meetings, but if you really, really want to understand them, talk about it with another person, directly and face to face, who knows them, and is still working on what they mean, like me, because the meanings change day by day. All good literature changes in meaning and feeling day by day, depending on our mood and our outlook. And the second paragraph of today's daily reflection: do I remember that I have a right to my opinion, but that others don't have to share it? So that's important, because within the fellowship we have so many different outlooks, and sometimes people band together with a particular outlook, which means that their group or meeting has a particular flavour, from being very staunch, straightforward, nuts and bolts fellowship, through to sort of airy-fairy in the clouds type fellowship. So it can be very concrete, very religious, very non-religious, you name it. Different groups develop in different ways. So some people talk about the Taliban AA, although I've never met them. Some people talk about AA step Nazis, but I haven't met any. Some people talk about this, that and the other, and I haven't met them either. Because whatever is going on, if it's impacting positively or negatively on me, it means I'm seeing it in a particular way. So when somebody tells me what to do in fellowship, I tend to give them short shrift, simply meaning I don't necessarily take on board their ideas or instructions too well, but I hold to the truth that they are entitled to their opinion, but they're not entitled to tell me what to do, because there are no rules, laws or regulations in AA, and we are all allowed to have our opinions, outlooks and views. The key is we all have a desire to stop drinking, stay stopped and help other people. So we may try and share our opinions as if they are truth, and that's difficult, because how do you work out whether it's an opinion or the truth? And the simple answer is, if it rings true for you and you can connect with it and it keeps you sober so you can be yourself, then you're probably on the right track. Live and let live. The Serenity Prayer reminds me, and this is the one which I use at the end of my videos, that with God's help, or simply good conscience, as you come to understand for yourself, because you don't have to be religious to work sober, live sober. You can be atheist, agnostic or believer, depending on your belief system. But a Serenity Prayer helps me with meditation. Meditation seems to work for me. With God's help, or in good conscience, accept the things I cannot change. Am I still trying to change others when it comes to the courage to change the things I can? Do I remember that my opinions are mine and yours are yours? Am I still afraid to be me when it comes to wisdom to know the difference? And do I remember that my opinions come from my experience? If I have a know-it-all attitude, aren't I being deliberately controversial? So when people say, there is only one way to do AA, and that's as it says in the big book of AA, how does a person who cannot read or write deal with that? And how does a person who can't read or write, or is not able to take in information too well, hear the voice of somebody saying, do it the way it says in the book, and you'll be okay, when they don't even know what the book's got in it. So, am I being controversial when I just say, rarely have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our path? The answer is no. I've often seen people fail who don't thoroughly follow the path, because they don't know what the path is, and until a person knows what the path is, how on earth can they be seen as a failure? So, it's chicken and egg, to keep on the egg thing. I should stop this. Chicken and egg. If you don't know, you don't know. But you don't know what you don't know till you find out what you do know. And that's all part of life. So ignorance is where we start. Empty, hopefully, rather than full of shit. But we all can be full of shit, opinion, attitudes, and you're all a bunch of fools, and I'm not listening to you. I'd rather play with my telephone, listen to my iPod, or generally disrupt other people around me. All that stuff goes on, and we can get angry about it, and then we say, oh well, one day maybe. But that's just the way it is. You know, meetings are meetings, people are people, and we'll meet good people and bad people with bad ideas, bad people with good ideas. That's the way life is. Life is full of stuff, people, places and things. And learning out how to define where we want to be is a daily variety mix, if you like. It is pick and mix. Some people we like, some people we don't like. Some people we love, but we hate their behaviour. Some people we don't like, but we love their behaviour, and they're full of it. And we have to work out who they are. We learn as we go along. That's how it is. That's what I get from the daily reflection today. And also, a telephone conversation earlier helped me with some of my thoughts and feelings about life today. Live and let live is really where it is. And also, if we want to be sober, we need support. And the type of support we get comes normally in many voices we hear in fellowship, or we have many voices outside fellowship which are supportive and know what it is we're trying to do. But if you tell a drinking person you need to give up alcohol because you're addicted to it and you can't cope when you drink because it leads to awful things happening, what's going to happen? They're likely to say, well, one won't hurt you, or they prefer you to take a drink because then you're malleable and you will do what they want you to do. And the most important thing in sobriety is learning to say no. No to alcohol. If you can, on your own, well done. If you can't do it on your own, get as many telephone numbers from people who seem to be like-minded, who you can relate to, because most often people will not be available when you want them. What you need to have, or rather what I would encourage you to have, is a telephone overwhelmed with people who are sober, so that you may ring somebody once in a blue moon and say, listen, I'm facing difficulty, rather than rely on one person to be your teacher, because it's not about being taught in AA, it's about learning from experience, strength and hope. No gurus, no one with a better outlook than anyone else. And the person you ring once in a blue moon and say, listen, I'm having difficulty and I'm about to go in a pub, by simply sharing it with them, you might find they're in the pub you're looking at, or you might find that once in a blue moon they may be able to help you out of those few moments when relapse is about to happen. So, even those who wish to be available often are not available because they are stuck in doing something else. In my case, it's normally sleeping. Anyway, my thoughts for today. Do I remember that I have a right to my opinion, but others don't have to share it? That's the spirit of live and let live in the daily reflections. So that's just a reminder which I'll be putting on Facebook and on my dialogues which go with the videos, and the full blog which has a link somewhere on the YouTube as well. Everybody has a right to their opinion, and their opinion, if it's not dogmatic and it's changing with the world as it is changing, there are some home truths which we all know about. There are some simple truths of life which we all know about. apart from that, opinion seems to rule the day, especially when it comes to politics, economics, sociology, all those things. People are still learning, and society is still learning. And I caught a bit of the news this morning. America has its problems, the UK has its problems, and we've got people demonstrating about the financial situation in both. And what do people do? They want to move the demonstrators on because it's an unacceptable truth. There is something wrong with the financial system. So it's unacceptable to see people demonstrating at tourist spots, as they see it, or blocking the way to a church, like it's a cathedral in this case, St. Paul's Cathedral. But I know that cathedral, and it has many entrances and exits. And just because they camped on the front doorstep doesn't mean you can't get in from the side. Indeed, when they have major events like Christmas Mass, which I've been to a couple of times, you may go in the front door, but you certainly go out the side doors, because how do you evacuate 3,000 people out of the building? But normally there aren't 3,000 people in there at any one time, or however many it is, I don't know exactly. I picked out that figure out of thin air. It's probably more or less, I don't know. But a few tents outside is not actually stopping the cathedral from functioning. It's just interfering with the tourist, £14.95 per person probably. But one enterprising vicar of whatever stature has already resigned. It was a resigning issue for him, trying to move these people on. After all, Jesus apparently could have been one of them demonstrating outside a temple some time back. And it's just an inconvenience to the status quo, which is bloody inconvenient for most of us. So there we go. Yes, if you've had your 47% pay increase this year, you're probably feeling fairly happy and don't like people camping outside St. Paul's because it's next to Paternoster Square, where the stock exchange is. Anyway, a little bit of politics there. More about today. Telling me the truth about your feelings, what is happening in your life, is all part of getting to know you. I always hope to love you just the way you are. No need to impress me, simply be the you are becoming today. Ordinary is where extraordinary begins. And what I found is that life, what I thought was ordinary, is extraordinary. I see interest in so many different places these days because I'm not thinking about the next thing I ought to be doing, or when am I going to the pub to obliterate reality. And every time I take time out for obliteration, I downgrade me and my feelings about life because I can't feel it real. So I use drink to find oblivion from truth, the truth of my situation, which was quite difficult, and it just got worse the more I drank, the more I got away from reality, and then I couldn't stop. So my view is the more we can get to the truth of who we are daily and what is going on, where we are, who we're with, what we're doing, why we did it, all those things. I don't mind what people do, I don't. But evasion will cause me upset because I know when the evasions are going on. When things don't ring true, they just don't ring true, and you can't keep on telling porkies or evasions because eventually they will catch up with you, and I suppose that's what came next. Yeah, fear of rejection. We cover up in case something we say, something we might do, might upset what we may hope for and has yet to happen. The more we evade the truth, the less easy it is to keep fictions we create, especially when we're taking large amounts of alcohol. We keep on jumping from one story to another, and it doesn't fold and hold together. So it doesn't have links, it doesn't have foundations. Just in case people won't like us. No wonder we end up with the wrong people, in the wrong places, with the wrong things. And that's the truth of it. You know, the more we tell the truth, the more we find we're with people who are like-minded. The more we are no longer ashamed of what we've done and what we've been up to. and just say, this is what happened as a consequence of where I was, with who I was. It's okay. It's just life. And the more it's out there, and if it seems ridiculous to you as a person, then how ridiculous will it sound to other people when it's shared? And when I got to AA, I was full of tall stories about my drinking escapades. Although there was quite a lot of truth in them, I did try and exaggerate them so they would be wonderful stories, so you would like the stories and hopefully like me. When it came down to the final days and the tragedy and the horror of life on the streets with nothing and nowhere to go, then it was pretty horrible. But then again, of course, I would like to tell the tall story that I was out there for several years in the bitter cold, creating igloos when it was wintry, and all the rest of that tall story stuff doesn't wash in the end. And somehow it gets washed out as we keep on going back into meetings of the fellowship. Yeah, it was pretty bad back then. It was horrible, it was awful. I felt desolate, depressed, and did want to die. But I kept on waking up. That's really what happened to me. And I couldn't make my life work, and I tried to make other people's lives work. And I was very good at that. But when it came to my own life, I couldn't sort it out, because I would always say, but let's talk about you, and your situation and your problems. And the answer is, talk about your problems, your situation, what's going on for you. What the cat dragged in, and all that stuff. All that stuff is okay to talk about. Just find the right person. And then you suddenly find in fellowship you can talk about anything. It doesn't matter how weird or not weird or just straightforwardly boring or wonderful it happened to be. You know, we just experience life at the extremes in the end. Extremes of drunkenness or sobriety. No, that's not right. Extremes of feeling drunk can be high or low. And oblivion is the most desolate place because there's nothing in it except darkness. So there you go, that's me for today. Other things, I don't know what I don't know, and as each day comes with new information, I keep on learning. So humility to keep learning life. I've learned all the other stuff which didn't work for me. Drink, I suppose, fastening on people, thinking if I get this person to help me I'll be okay, and the answer is one person can't get you into sobriety. You need the whole fellowship. And as I said earlier, it takes a village to raise a child and a fellowship to keep me sober. So I still need everyone in fellowship, and I don't actually think differently. I go there, I listen, I hear, I learn. I keep on learning every day. What mistakes I don't want to make again, because I hear the same mistakes over and over again. But I love the people sharing their truth, the truth of who they are today. And we all know we tell tall stories about our lives when we're first new because we want to impress. It's a bit like the Shania Twain song, that don't impress me much, tall stories. I'd just rather have the truth. And that way I know where I am and where you are. But we all take time getting there, and we all fear being loved. We all fear what happens if we were to love another person. We all fear, what if they don't like us, if they really knew us? And the answer is, we can't like somebody we don't know. We might like the image projected, but that cannot last. It just can't last. So it's better to be broken down, wanting to get well, than learning how to do it. It's all right. And you know who I mean. Anyway, this is me being me. But I was grateful for everything said. I was, definitely. Even the purring. So, that will be obvious. As a fellowship, Alcoholics Anonymous remains focused on its primary purpose, which is sobriety. We as individuals remain unique and authentic, in my view, with views and beliefs as we come to understand from our living and from our experience. One focus, we still share our unique experience, strength and hope daily as we may. And there's a few hundred more words here and there, but I'm not going to share them now. Enough time spent. So, clocks went back. It means I have to make sure my bicycle lights on my vehicle are fully charged, new ones. I have to cut them off and then stick them back on again, otherwise they won't be there and I'll forget them. They'll last a few weeks. Darkness tonight, lest we forget meeting. There's a group conscience tonight, so go along if you belong. Group consciences are exciting. I don't know if I'll be there. I have a severe neck and back problem today, caused by pushing things around yesterday. Anyway, enough for today. My video's at the end. All I want is people to find a path of sobriety based on what suits them. Keep your own opinions, find out how sober works for other people, share experience, strength and hope, and we rub along together. Diverse we are, from all walks of life and all backgrounds. Poor, rich, in the middle, something or nothing. But truth prevails eventually, and we keep sober because of it. The truth is, I'm sober right now. The truth is, I need help from everyone in fellowship. Or where would I be? Well, I know I'd be dead. And I also know that I've lived long enough to get one or two other chronic conditions as well. And that's unfortunate, but true. So I work with what I've got, and that's part of acceptance as well. And the Serenity Prayer helps me find acceptance on a day-by-day, moment-by-moment basis. Whether agnostic, atheist or believer in God is perfectly acceptable as you understand your outlook. Which may seem strange, because God is mentioned a lot in AA, but also God is mentioned every day by people. Oh my God, oh no, God help us, or there is some appeal or exhortation to a power greater than us, and I see that as nature, providence and the universe, as it is. And it's forever changing, but moment by moment. Even though we may be stubborn and don't want to change and want to stay drinking, we eventually maybe learn that drinking will encourage old attitudes and behaviour and thinking, and not drinking will leave a big gap which hopefully we don't fill with rubbish or nonsense. But we will to start with, because that's just the way we are. And we need the nonsense and funniness and half-truths and tall stories to keep us interested. After all, nobody really expects anybody to turn up, wander in and say, oh, listen, there is one, and they are a scientist. But as a scientist, they have denied that they're an alcoholic. But yet they come to AA because it seems to do something for them. It gives them a whole platform of learning in their empirical way. Anyway, AA, emotional spiritual sobriety, and we sort of science out as we go. So to God or in good conscience, the Serenity Prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Always in the imperfectly perfect moment of now, and just for today.